Hi, you're watching Hindustan Times Insight, and I'm Aditi Prasad. And Droupadi Murmu is India's first citizen. In an impressive victory on Thursday, Murmu polled 64% votes in the Presidential Electoral College, which comprises both the state legislators as well as the parliamentarians. Now, the opposition candidate, Yashwant Sinha, he could just about receive 36% of the total votes polled, that is according to the Rajya Sabha Secretariat data. Now, Murmu's victory, it also not just gives India its first tribal president, but also exposes the chinks in the opposition's armor ahead of 2024 elections, and of course a number of state elections before that. I'm joined obviously as always by the paper's editor-in-chief, Sukumar Ranganathan. Sukumar, given Murmu's nomination was, since the time her nomination was announced, it was almost a given that she's going to win. But did we expect a win of this nature?
See, we all, like you said, we all knew she would win. The numbers were always clear. The BJP and the NDA said they would aim for a much higher number than their own strength in the houses would suggest. And there was talk of 70% at least. They didn't get anywhere close to that, but 64% is still a very, very clear win. The margin of victory is 28%. Pretty much more or less what Ramnath Kovind managed to get in the last election. I think he got around 65%.
Yeah.
Pranab Mukherjee, of course, got more. He got almost 70%. That was in 2012. But very clear win. I think the more important issue in this case is not the win, which is great. Our position is very clear. There are some people who believe that the president's position is symbolic. It is, and that is its importance, right? I mean, it is important simply because it is an extremely symbolic position, and having a tribal and a woman in that position sends out an extremely good signal. I think it is going to be inspirational as well as aspirational for 100 million people who belong to the tribal community in this country. The motives may be political, but I think it is an excellent move, and I think we couldn't have asked for a better president or a better president-elect. I mean, she's still not been. But the important issue to look at here is what happened to the opposition. Because I think when you have an election of this nature, we are now in the middle of 2022. In less than 2 years from now, you're going to have the national polls. Gives an opportunity for the opposition, which for a long time has been saying we will come together in some form, we will have an alliance of some nature. And there are various people in the opposition who've sprung up and said we will talk to others, we will get everyone together. The first test of their ability to even put up a unified force would have come in the presidential election, or should have come in the presidential election. What kind of candidate are you putting up? And is this a person who can perhaps appeal to parties which are not part of the unified opposition, but are still not part of the NDA?
Right.
Like the Biju Janata Dal, for instance.
True.
And I think the opposition clearly lost a trick. Yashwant Sinha, who was their eventual candidate, was their fourth choice. No, I'm not saying that any of the other three choices, which were the names that did the rounds, were any more imaginative than his name. But to take on a candidate supported by the BJP, you're getting a person who was once part of the BJP.
Right.
I don't think it makes sense at all. I think they could have been more imaginative. They could have come up with a candidate who was perhaps from the tribal community, perhaps from the scheduled caste community, perhaps a woman. I'm not sure they looked far and wide. Eventually, the TMC said this is going to be the candidate. Everyone else supported it. The Congress said, oh, great, but he's from the TMC. Why should we support him? So he said, I'm going to resign from the TMC. And never got anywhere. I don't even think his campaign got off the ground. And quite honestly, Soon after he was named, Murmu's candidature was announced by the BJP. This was a case where the opposition announced its candidate first and the NDA announced its candidate for president's post later. And when Murmu's name was announced, I think there were several red faces in the opposition, because how do you legitimately, because most parties stand for exactly the things that Murmu's candidature reflects.
Correct.
And so for them to suddenly say, oh, we are not going to support her and we are going to vote for this person is a little embarrassing for them. And I think the West Bengal Chief Minister put it well. She said if they had perhaps told us that Murmu is going to be the candidate, we might have well supported her instead of pushing a candidate. And I think that's really what happened. So the NDA or the BJP did very well in choosing its candidate. And the opposition yet again failed to choose its candidate, means that, what does this mean for 2024?
Right.
It means that you've not gotten off to a good start. That there's still a lot of work that needs to be done before you can even have something resembling a united opposition. Because right now you don't have that.
Right, and the Congress clearly, I think by now they have understood that they are not in a position to lead or play a leading role in this united.
But
where does that
who
lead
is?
Exactly. So where does
So
that
no
lead
one
this
is, right?
united opposition?
Because if you look at what has happened to the vice presidential election,
Right.
Where now the vice presidential election is even more of a shoe-in than the presidential election, because the electoral college there is just the lower house and the upper house, where the NDA has a clear, where the BJP doesn't even need the NDA, it's just the BJP has enough numbers to
Push
make
their
its candidate, which
Correct.
is Jagdeep Dhankar, win. Now, the TMC has said it will not support Margaret Halva's candidature because they were not consulted. So clearly, you're already seeing a clean break in the opposition ranks. But to answer your question, if the Congress clearly cannot be the leader of the opposition because it can't speak for the opposition, entirely understandable, especially given its performance over the last few years. But who can? Because the TMC, which is Mamata Banerjee, can only speak for West Bengal. So who can really speak for the united opposition? Who is going to say, I am going to get this disparate group of parties with varying perspectives, with differing ideologies, and with huge egos to boot, together, and I'm going to try and forge a coalition. So who is going to be that unifying figure? So there is no unifying figure. There's no one party which can clearly say, we are going to get everyone together because we are the most important party in this grouping. So it makes it very, very difficult for an alliance to form. Things could change, but right now, it looks like a bunch of different parties and different leaders who are making a lot of noise. And who are making...
And the same thing happened in 2019 and 2014 too, really. Ahead of 2014, ahead of 2019, not 2014 so much, but ahead of 2019, there was this effort to bring together a united opposition and show a face. But I just want your view on people like a Sharad Pawar or a Prashant Kishore. Could they be these people? I don't know where Prashant Kishore stands. I mean, is he a politician? Is he a poll strategist? That the jury
is still a poll strategist.
Yes, the jury
and based on reports, he's a poll strategist who, at some point in time, has expressed a desire to be a politician or at least someone who works in public life, right? Because of this organization or body that he wants to start in Bihar and sort of grow. But I'm not sure that Mr. Pawar can also be a unifying figure at this point in time, right? I mean, because does the NCP really have that kind of appeal? NCP is a party which has zero appeal in the south, zero appeal pretty much in the east, right? I mean, little it's pocket of the west, north, zero appeal again. So I don't know. The only thing national about them is in their name, right? So how can you say that he is going? Sure, he's very senior. Was a senior congressman, then went out and started the NCP. not even the largest party
in
in
Maharashtra.
Maharashtra.
Correct.
Right? I mean, so how can you say that he is in a position? I think it sort of reflects the fact that you really do not have leaders, right? You're pretty much scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're trying to find someone who can be the leader of a united opposition, and at this point in time, it doesn't look like there is anyone.
So nobody there to sort of lead a united anti-BJP front into 2024.
I also have a fundamental issue with this anti-BJP.
But that's what the opposition keeps
correct.
talking about.
Correct.
Yes.
But I have a fundamental problem with that because your only ideology cannot be
Exactly.
opposing some other party. Is that the only thing that is going to bring you together? And we saw what happened in Maharashtra, right? I mean, forget the drama of how the split happened in the Shiv Sena and everything else. But at the end of the day, the MVA, and we've discussed this before, was a fragile alliance of three parties with completely differing ideologies and also a completely different belief on how the state needed to be run. So how does that work?
Right. So 2 years is still a long time in politics, but I just want you to, as things stand today, would you say the 2024 results are a given, as things stand today?
As not just today, I think the 2024 results, unless things change phenomenally, have been a given for quite some time. Right? Let us be honest about it, right? Because we have not seen the kind of opposition at the national level that can actually unseat the BJP. Sure, you've seen it at the regional level.
True.
But at the national level, and we ourselves have written extensively about it, the considerations appear to be different. What people vote for appears to be different. And there, the BJP, especially because it has Narendra Modi, who is still the tallest leader in this country and also the most popular leader in this country by a long margin, if you were to look at all the numbers that are coming out, has a very, very clear advantage.
Right. Just to wind up, there was a lot of cross-voting that happened in these presidential elections. A lot of Congress people also voted, for Droupadi Murmu. This, of course, as we've just discussed, it sort of points towards a very unimaginative opposition and a very non-existent opposition unity, so to speak. Going forward, I think it's pointless asking what does the Congress need to sort of revive itself. We've discussed it so many times and it's just not happening. But if you were to, you're saying 2024 is a given because we don't have a national opposition anymore. And the Congress obviously is a legitimate question again. And I know, as I said, we've discussed it before to no avail. But what can the Congress do now to kind of get back its mojo before 2024, if you think that can happen?
We've all written so many edits and analytical pieces about it that, I will just be repeating myself. It's not rocket science. I think it starts from the top. Needs new leadership.
Non-Gandhi leadership?
Yeah,
is that?
extreme. It's very, look at it from, let's say, the perspective of a company. I know a political party is not a company, but suppose a company continues to do extremely badly for many quarters on a row, a public limited company. Typically, the board will get together and say, let's change the CEO.
Sack the CEO, yeah.
And get a new CEO.
Right.
And sometimes, when you're doing very badly, it just doesn't matter who the new CEO is. You just need someone new. Right? This is a party that seems to be unwilling to do this. So, there is no point in us.
So therefore, 2024 is a given, and especially given these presidential elections and even the vice presidential elections now. This, just goes to show the chinks in the opposition armor, and which has been showing for quite some time, but yet again exposed barely 2 years away from the general elections.
Armor is not a word I would use at all when it comes to the opposition.
Okay,
right?
No armor for the opposition. There is no armor. It's just a loose, I don't know how they are. Loose formation.
I think the correct term would be the soft underbelly of the opposition,
soft,
right?
okay.
Because it is really not an entity that you can speak of when it comes to any
True.
kind of strength at the national level. At the state level, we do have a very vibrant,
powerful regional leaders.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, you look at the contests that have happened, they're fairly significant. Many parties have done well when compared, have actually bested the BJP. But at the national level, there is a problem.
And I want to bring up Kejriwal's name here, but I won't because, yet again, he's just shown his wonder in 2 states so far.
The AAP has clearly grown, right?
Yes.
I mean, to go from 1 state to 2
In a
is,
span
no,
of, yeah.
is no mean achievement.
Right.
It's a true startup among parties. But I think, like all startups, they're having issues about how do we manage this state now that we've got it? Because Punjab is not Delhi.
Right.
It's a much more complex state to manage.
True.
And I think too early, but they are just beginning to cope with it.
So yes, thank you so much, Sukumar, for giving us this time and making our viewers understand the larger implications of the presidential election that just took place. Thank you, viewers, for watching this broadcast. We will keep coming back to you with more. Stay tuned to Hindustan Times.